They told you that you were free, that you could choose your path, your work, your thoughts, your dreams. But what if I told you that freedom itself was the greatest illusion ever created? You wake up every morning believing you are in control. You think, you decide what to buy, what to love, what to believe. But from the moment you open your eyes, the world begins whispering in your ear. It tells you who you should be, what success should look like, and how happiness must feel. They call it freedom because you cannot see the cage. And that is what makes it perfect. True chains do not rattle. They hum quietly inside your thoughts. They shape your desires until you call them your own. They turn your obedience into choice, your submission into comfort. Modern world does not need bars or guards. It only needs distraction, and it feeds you distraction in every form imaginable. A glowing screen in your hand, a constant stream of pleasure and outrage, a marketplace of emotion where attention is the only currency that matters. You scroll, you react, you consume, but you do not think. And the less you think, the freer you feel. Because freedom has been redefined. It no longer means power or independence. It means comfort without awareness. You were taught that freedom was about choice, but choice means nothing when every option is designed by someone else. They tell you what to want. They tell you what to fear. And when you obey, they call it progress. The system does not need you to rebel. It only needs you to participate. Because every click, every purchase, every opinion you share builds the walls higher around you. The illusion of freedom is not maintained through force. It is maintained through pleasure. Give people comfort, and they will never question control. Give them convenience, and they will surrender power. Give them entertainment, and they will forget meaning. They will believe they are living, when in truth they are being lived through. You think you are free because no one orders you, but what if your obedience no longer requires orders? What if the most dangerous prison is the one that feels like home power today? No longer rules with violence. It rules with design. You are not chained by soldiers. You are guided by algorithms, invisible engineers shaping what you see. So precisely that your thoughts echo their intentions. You think your beliefs are your own, but every belief has been planted, watered, and harvested by forces you will never meet. The media tells you who the villain is. The culture tells you who the hero must be, and your mind accepts it without resistance because truth now competes with entertainment, and entertainment always wins. They gave you endless choices but no real freedom. Endless information, but no understanding, endless connection but no intimacy, and you celebrate it. Because the illusion feels better than the effort to wake up. You see the world through 1,000 screens but never with your own eyes. You speak with everyone but understand no one. You are surrounded by voices but you cannot hear your own. This is not an accident, it is design. Because a silent thinker is dangerous, but a loud, distracted mind is profitable. The system does not want rebellion. It wants engagement. It wants you busy, chasing validation, busy arguing online, busy proving your worth to people who never cared. And all the while your time is being harvested, your attention is the crop, and your freedom is the price. The illusion of freedom thrives because you defend it. You post about liberty. You argue about politics. You choose sides in a war that was never yours. Because division is the easiest way to hide control. When people fight each other, they never notice the hand that moves them both. You are told to hate the left or the right, to fear immigrants or elites, to worship one flag and burn another. But the truth is simpler. You are all inside the same machine, and the machine feeds on conflict. They call it democracy. But the choices you vote for were written long before the ballot appeared. They call it capitalism. But the market you worship is owned by the few who design your desires. They call it freedom of speech. But the platforms that amplify your voice can silence you in a heartbeat. That is not freedom. That is containment with permission. The illusion of freedom is not sustained by power alone. It is sustained by comfort, because comfort is the new chain, the one that people beg to wear. You have been taught to chase happiness, but happiness is the perfect leash. It keeps you running toward a horizon you will never reach. It keeps you too busy to ask who drew the horizon in the first place. True freedom is not the absence of control. It is the awareness of control. And that awareness is the most dangerous knowledge in the world. Most people will never seek it because truth brings discomfort, and comfort feels like peace. But peace built on ignorance is only the silence before collapse. There are two kinds of people in this world: those who live inside the illusion, and those who see the illusion and learn to use it. Which one you become depends on whether you can face the truth that your freedom was never yours to begin with. The deeper you look, the quieter the world becomes, because truth does not scream, it whispers. They taught you that your voice matters, that if you speak loud enough, someone will listen. But the system does not silence you by force anymore. It drowns you in noise, billions of voices all shouting at once, each convinced they are free because they can speak. But speech without silence is chaos, and chaos is control disguised as liberty. They call it connection, but it is surveillance in disguise. Every word, every image, every impulse recorded, measured, sold. You are not the customer. You are the product. They have built a mirror that reflects only what keeps you docile. It shows you what you desire and hides what you fear. It tells you that you are unique, while shaping you to think exactly like everyone else. Individuality has become another uniform, a costume made of trends and opinions. You decorate your cage and call it expression. You mistake visibility for significance. The system loves when you chase meaning through attention, because attention is easy to sell, and meaning is dangerous. They tell you to build your brand, to find your tribe, to share your story. But behind every share stands the quiet machine, counting, measuring, predicting. Turning identity into inventory. Freedom was replaced by performance, and performance became survival. You are free to be anything as long as it fits the algorithm. Free to speak as long as your words please the feed. Free to dream as long as your dream can be monetized. This is not tyranny. It is seduction. You are not threatened. You are entertained. The old rulers used chains. The new rulers use choices. You stand in a digital marketplace of dreams, every option shining, every path open. But the roads all lead to the same destination. Obedience through consumption. You think you choose what you want, but the system chose what you will want long before you knew it. They discovered that control is easiest when invisible. If people do not see their cage, they will defend it with pride. You defend it every time you seek validation, every time you measure your worth by numbers, every time you scroll through lives that are not real and wish you were them. Comparison keeps the illusion alive. It keeps you chasing ghosts that vanish when touched. It keeps you tired, distracted, and hungry. Perfect conditions for control. The powerful do not need to convince you anymore. They only need to keep you busy. A mind that never rests cannot rebel. A heart that never feels cannot heal. A soul that never questions cannot wake. And so the illusion deepens. You are told to work hard, but never told why, to dream big, but never told for whom. You build empires for others while believing they belong to you. You sacrifice time to earn money, then spend money trying to feel alive again. You buy things you do not need to impress people you do not know, to prove something you do not understand. This is not life. This is theater, and you are both actor and audience. The curtain rises each morning. You play your part. You smile. You perform, you obey, and the crowd applauds your freedom. The show never ends, because it does not need to. You keep paying for the ticket. Real freedom begins when you stop clapping, when you stop mistaking movement for progress, noise for truth, comfort for peace. That is when the walls become visible. That is when you see how deep the illusion runs. The economy of control is not built on money alone. It is built on emotion. Fear and hope are the twin engines that drive the machine. They tell you to fear what you cannot control, and to hope for what they can sell. Fear keeps you dependent. Hope keeps you obedient. Between those two chains lies the illusion of freedom. When fear rises, they promise safety. When hope fades, they promise reward. The cycle repeats forever. Every election, every advertisement, every ideology is built on that rhythm. Fear, then hope, then fear again, and you dance to it, believing you are leading the steps, but you are being led. Freedom once meant the ability to refuse. Now it means the ability to choose between cages. To be free again, you must remember what refusal feels like. You must learn to say no, not the polite no, of convenience but the dangerous no, of awareness. Say no to distraction, no to validation, no to comfort that dulls the soul, because only when you stop needing what they offer do you begin to see who you are. The illusion cracks the moment you stop feeding it. Silence becomes your rebellion. Stillness becomes your weapon. The machine cannot read silence. It cannot predict a mind that does not announce itself. So learn to be quiet, to think in places that are not connected, to feel without broadcasting, to act without applause. In that quiet space between thought and noise, you will glimpse the first breath of real freedom, not the freedom they sold you, but the freedom that cannot be sold. It will frighten you because it feels empty at first. No notifications, no applause, no script, but that emptiness is truth, and truth is the only ground where freedom can stand. When the illusion cracks, the world feels strange. The colors shift, the sounds change. Everything you thought was solid begins to move. You start to see the patterns in conversations, the repetition in opinions, the emptiness behind confidence, and it makes you dizzy. Because truth does not appear like light. It appears like darkness that slowly teaches you how to see. You notice how people defend their own cages, how they argue for the systems that drain them, how they attack anyone who dares to. Wake up. Freedom is terrifying because it removes excuses. Once you see the strings, you can no longer pretend to be a puppet. The system survives because people choose comfort over awareness, because awareness demands action, and action requires courage. Most will trade that courage for peace. They will convince themselves that ignorance is noble, that submission is maturity, that cynicism is wisdom. They will laugh at you for seeking meaning. They will call you paranoid for seeing patterns, because deep down they know you are right. But they fear the cost of being free. And there is always a cost. Freedom is not granted. It is taken. And taking it requires that you lose the things that kept you safe. You will lose approval. You will lose certainty. You will lose the gentle numbness of belonging. But in return you gain vision. And with vision comes responsibility. Because once you see the machinery of control, you realize you are part of it. You bought the products. You clicked the headlines, you followed the trends, you became both prisoner and guard. That is the cruel beauty of the illusion. It does not trap you. It invites you to participate. Real freedom begins when you stop feeding the machine, when you stop needing the noise, when you begin to build. From silence, freedom is not escape, it is mastery. It is learning to walk through the market of illusions without buying anything. It is using the tools of the system without becoming its tool. You will still live among the distracted. You will still use the same devices, but your mind will move differently. You will no longer react. You will observe, you will no longer chase. You will choose, and that difference is invisible to most, but felt by all. Because true power radiates quietly. It does not announce itself. It does not seek validation. It simply exists. When you reach that point, the system will notice, not because it fears you, but because it cannot predict you. A man who cannot be predicted cannot be controlled. A woman who cannot be manipulated becomes invisible to the machine. That is why awakening is rare, because unpredictability breaks the pattern that power depends on. They will try to pull you back, with pleasure, with fear, with belonging. They will promise rewards. They will threaten isolation. They will remind you of everything you stand to lose, and you will feel the weight of it. Because freedom is heavy when you first hold it. You will walk through crowds that seem asleep, and part of you will envy their peace. their smiles, their certainty, their blindness. But remember, blindness is easy because it requires nothing. Sight demands everything. So keep walking. Every step away from illusion will hurt. But every step will also heal. You will start to see the architecture of manipulation everywhere. In the stories you are told, in the products you are offered, in the ideals you are sold, you will see how fear is used to keep people small, how shame is used to keep them silent, how hope is used to keep them obedient, and you will no longer be angry. You will simply understand because anger is still a chain, and understanding is the key that opens it. Freedom is not found in fighting the system. It is found in mastering yourself within it, when your emotions are no longer harvested, when your attention is no longer for sale, when your peace is no longer negotiable. Then you are free. Not because the world changed, but because you did. The illusion of freedom ends when you realize you never needed permission to be free. Only the courage to see, so close, your eyes. Take a breath and step beyond the noise. You will hear silence. And in that silence you will feel something ancient, something pure, something that cannot be bought or sold. That is freedom. It will not make you comfortable. It will not make you popular, but it will make you whole. And once you taste it, you will never again believe the lie. Now you stand outside the dream, looking in at a world that still believes, a world that moves without awareness, smiles without reason, fears without cause. You want to wake them. You want to shout that the cage is open, that the bars were never real. But you stop yourself. Because you remember how you once defended your own chains. You remember the warmth of belonging, the safety of the script, the comfort of never thinking too deeply, and you understand why they cling to it. Freedom cannot be given, it must be chosen, and most will never choose it. So you walk silently among them, not as a preacher, not as a savior, but as a witness. You start to see beauty in the smallest things, in the pause between moments, in the quiet breath before decisions, in the strength it takes to remain awake in a world built to numb you. The illusion will keep calling you back with new screens, new fears, new dreams. Each generation remakes the cage and paints it with progress. They will tell you it is different, now that this time it is fair, that this time you are truly free. And you will smile because you will recognize the pattern. You will see how every new system promises liberation, while quietly perfecting control. How every revolution replaces one illusion with another. How power never disappears. It only changes costume. And that is when you truly awaken. When you stop seeking freedom from the world and start creating freedom within yourself. Freedom is not a place. It is a state of being. It lives in the space between reaction and awareness. Between noise and silence, you begin to guard that space with everything you have. You protect your attention as if it were gold, because it is. You no longer rush to respond. You no longer chase what others worship. You no longer kneel before the gods of approval. You act with purpose. You speak with restraint. You move through chaos. Untouched. People will not understand. They will call you detached, cold, different. But difference is the first proof of awakening. You will lose many things. The crowd, the comfort, the illusion of certainty, but in their place you will gain power, not the kind that dominates, but the kind that cannot be dominated, the kind that comes from seeing without judgment, acting without fear, living without masks. You will learn that power is not control over others, it is control over yourself. When the world tries to provoke you, you will smile. When the world tries to frighten you, you will stay calm. When the world tries to seduce you with comfort, you will choose clarity. And they will not know how to move you, because the only power the system has is the power to make you react. The moment you stop reacting, you step outside its reach. You begin to build quietly. You build your mind, your body, your spirit. You learn. You create. You grow without asking permission. You stop trying to change the world. You start to understand it. And in understanding it, you begin to bend it. The illusion loses its power when you see through it, because it cannot. Trick a mind that refuses to look away. That is the final paradox. The more clearly you see the game, the less the game controls you. You walk through cities of noise with a calm heart. You sit among chaos and feel peace. You become the still point in a spinning world. This is what true freedom looks like, not escape, not isolation, but mastery. Mastery over thought, over impulse, over illusion. When you reach this place, you do not need to shout truth. You become it. Your silence speaks louder than any argument. Your calm presence becomes rebellion. The system cannot measure that. It cannot profit from it. It cannot predict it. And so it fears you. Not because you are dangerous, but because you are untouchable. Freedom is not a reward. It is a responsibility. Once you hold it, you must protect it. Once you live it, you must honor it. Once you taste it, you can never return to sleep. So guard your silence, guard your awareness, guard the flame that woke you, because everything around you will try to extinguish it. But if you keep it alive, if you carry it through the darkness, others will see its glow, and they will begin to question their own shadows. That is how freedom spreads, not through war, not through revolution, but through example, through the quiet strength of a mind that cannot be owned. You were born into a world of illusions, but you were never meant to die in one. The door was always open, the chains were always imagined, and the key was always within you. You only had to stop believing the lie. Now you know, and once you know, you can never unknow. You are free.